It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I had the privilege to interview the UNC Chapel Hill Professor of Sports Medicine and Athletic Training, Meredith Petschauer. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in sports education?
Yeah, so I think it goes back pretty far. I was an athlete, and I think that's probably how most of us get started in a lot of times in sports medicine or athletics in some way, is we either watch a lot of sport or we play a lot of sport. And so I played soccer at a small Division III school in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, called the College of Worcester. And when I discovered athletic training through playing a sport. And then when I came to UNC Chapel Hill to get my master's degree in athletic training, I really found that I enjoyed teaching a lot. And I TA'd for some faculty in the athletic training program and some athletic training classes. And just after doing that, I really discovered that I enjoyed the teaching part. And so that was what I decided to stick with.
Of course, what was that like getting to study sports medicine in athletic training?
So sports medicine is this very broad topic. And so it's this big umbrella that encompasses everything from the physicians that we refer our patients to sports nutritionists, sports psychologists, the nurses, orthopedic surgeons, right? I mean, there's this big, sports medicine is this giant umbrella of topic. And part of sports medicine is athletic training. And when I was an undergraduate student, I got injured and got a concussion actually, and went to the athletic trainer and found out about athletic training and what athletic training involved. And because I really didn't know what it was when I started as an undergraduate student. I had no idea. I had never heard of athletic training before. And thought I wanted to go to medical school or PT school or something along those lines. And so I went to the athletic trainer after I got hurt. He took very good care of me, and that was really where my interest peaked. And I asked him, I said, can I volunteer? I found out students volunteered in the athletic training room, and thought, well, this is really cool. I think I want to do this. And so I asked to volunteer in the athletic training room, and he said, of course. And so from that point on, I pretty much got hooked. I ended up not playing soccer the following year because I really just liked athletic training, and I was ready to kind of be done playing my sport. I knew I wasn't going to play it professionally. I was not even close to being that good. And so then after my undergraduate degree, I really knew that in athletic training that I needed an advanced degree. And so in order to work clinically, I needed more education. I didn't feel comfortable just with my undergraduate degree. And so then I came to UNC Chapel Hill to get a master's in athletic training.
Of course, what was that experience like coming to UNC Chapel Hill to get your master's in athletic training?
I mean, I think you're very excited. Obviously, when I came to interview here at UNC, I knew that this was where I wanted to come. I came home from the interview, and because I was living at home, and I told my parents, this is really where I want to be, and I really hope I get in, because if I don't get in, I'm going to be devastated. And so fortunately I got in. and you're intimidated at first when you come on campus. Some of the leading researchers in the field of athletic training, and the Bill Prentice, who is the author of the major athletic training textbooks that we read, is a faculty member here at UNC and directs the graduate program. And so those are things that at first you're thinking, oh my goodness, right? I am so intimidated by this situation, but everybody makes you feel very comfortable. And it was an awesome experience. I had amazing educators. I had amazing clinical supervisors and mentors to help me learn and grow as an athletic trainer. And so I learned a tremendous amount.
Of course, what were some of the classes that you took in athletic training at UNC Chapel Hill?
So in terms of classes, you take everything from, we did a cadaver anatomy class. We take some modalities classes, some advanced orthopedic assessment class, which is really funny because I now teach the advanced orthopedic assessment class. And so I feel like it's come full circle for me that I took that class and now I'm actually teaching that class. And then we take some classes in research, because we do just like most master's students, you write a master's thesis, and so you take some classes related to your research and classes related to your clinical work.
Of course, what has that been like, obviously getting to become the professor and getting to teach those classes that you took as a student of athletic training?
So for me, it's been really fun. I love students. I do some administrative things as well, and I enjoy my administrative work, but students are really, really fun to be around. I always tell people that the students never get any older. They're always the same age. Every year I teach them, they're roughly the same age. So that means that I don't get any older either. I've been at UNC for 27 years and doesn't really feel like it's been that long, but for me, it's been really fun to teach class, and it's changed over my years of time. Athletic training has grown, and we know more, and we're able to do more, and so that's one of the great parts about being in a medical profession, because we learn new things about how we treat patients and what we do, and things like there are treatments like dry needling and cupping and PRP and all of those kinds of things that those weren't even in our vocabulary when I went to graduate school at UNC. So it's really been fun to grow and learn, and then to get to teach a similar group of students.
Of course, what is that like, obviously teaching those students how to become an athletic trainer and then see them go out into the real world and getting to become an athletic trainer?
Yeah, so that is probably one of the most fun things for me. When we no longer have an undergraduate athletic training program because of the way accreditation, so all athletic training programs are accredited. So in order to become an athletic trainer, you have to graduate from an accredited program. You have to sit for a board of certification exam. There's licensure in most states. So there's a process. The accreditation agency changed the process to now all athletic trainers, in order to sit for the board of certification exam, you actually have to go get a master's degree in athletic training. Before, you could do a bachelor's degree. And so I directed the undergraduate athletic training program and taught in that program for years and years and years. And Kevin Guskowitz, who actually is now the chancellor of the university, Kevin and I started the program together. And it was really, really great to be able to see those students that I taught all through their undergraduate education, and you see them grow from the very first class I taught in the program. I taught the very first class they took, and I taught the very last class they took. And so I can remember those times where they were taking a practical exam with me, and they're doing an evaluation, and they're freaking out. they just, with the very first time they did it, they just freak out. And you can completely understand why they would freak out. And then by the time they then took a similar practical exam later on, and at the end, they were always so much more relaxed and calm. And it was just beautiful to see them grow during the time that they were undergraduate students. And many of them, and it's probably my proudest thing, is many of them have gone on to be very successful athletic trainers. And we have students that have graduated from our program in professional sport all over the place, who are athletic trainers in military settings, in high school settings, and collegiate settings. And that is really, I'm very, very proud of those students.
Of course, what is that like, obviously, seeing those freshmen that are just entering their program of athletic training versus the seniors that are transitioning into the real world after athletic training classes?
Yeah, so many of them, right, like I said, they were very nervous. They were always very nervous. And many of them would be really, they fit into sort of two categories. Sometimes they were students who were really, really book smart, and then they would be really nervous in the clinical setting, and they would be really worried about being wrong or something happened in the clinical setting. And then there were those who were really great in the clinical setting and felt like they could do anything in the clinical setting, but they didn't like the classroom very much. And so you would kind of foster and mentor them, kind of shepherd them along. And it's really amazing to see how much they grow and learn. And now what we do in our program instead is we have a sports medicine minor. So because you have to now go to an entry-level master's degree program, or sometimes called a professional master's degree program, we no longer have our undergraduate program. We still have our master's, our advanced master's. So after you get your certification in athletic training, you can come back to UNC and get an advanced master's degree or a PhD. So you can do all of those things. And so, now we have this sports medicine minor. And so now they can still kind of get interested in sports medicine. And that's really fun too, because those students who didn't know about athletic training, and we offer them some clinical opportunities, and they can take some classes and then learn more about what an athletic trainer is and does. And then they go on and get their master's degree.
Of course, what has that been like, obviously, getting to have them work alongside the athletic program and get that in-world experience?
I think it's a very valuable experience. And what I would tell students, and really in all honesty, I would tell this to anyone, if you think that you want to do something, right? You think, or you want to do X, Y, or Z, go experience that. I think one of the reasons why I chose athletic training has to do with the fact that I really liked working with an athlete population. So I really enjoy that population. They're very driven, they're very motivated people. And so when we can expose students to what it is that we do, and then they can decide, is this something that I like, or is this something that I don't like? We definitely have had students who said, this is not for me. Right? They'll come into our environment and they don't really like it. They're not engaged. They just, for whatever reason, it's not for them, which is perfectly fine. And then we have students who come into the athletic training room, and they work in our environment and see what we do, and they love it. And that is, we call it getting the bug. And they get the bug, and then athletic training is what they want to do. And because really there's something very special for me, and I think for our students, there's something very special about being there when an athlete gets injured, being there to rehabilitate them. So maybe they have a surgery in between, maybe they don't, right? But you work really hard with them to rehabilitate them, work really hard to gradually return them to activity. And then you get to see them do the activity that they are so excited about doing. And they are so appreciative of that. And just watching that happen is a really great experience.
Of course, what job opportunities are out there for students that are in athletic training?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And athletic training scopes many settings, right? So there are athletic trainers who work in what we would call sort of the traditional settings, like your collegiate settings, providing care for athletes at at all division levels. So Division 1, 2, and 3 all hire athletic trainers. We're the people that are on the sidelines. We're the people who run out on the field or the court when someone gets hurt, and we evaluate them. And so pretty much any setting where you can think about, okay, is someone going to get hurt on an athletic field or court somewhere, then you can work as an athletic trainer. There are many high schools that hire athletic trainers. One of the things that we're doing in North Carolina is we're trying to push more and more for more and more high schools to hire an athletic trainer. We do save lives. I think that was made obvious, hopefully, to people with Damar Hamlin and what happened to him, right? That was athletic trainers who were providing care for him and doing that and having those emergency action plans and those kinds of things. And so there's that kind of traditional setting is what we call it. And then there's the professional world as well. So that all your major professional leagues. So WNBA, NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball, NFL, right? They all have many athletic trainers that they usually hire for their teams, depending on the size of the team. And then there are individuals in a clinic setting. And so you could work in a clinic alongside physical therapists doing rehabilitation. And then sometimes you do concussion management. One of the things athletic trainers are very good at is managing concussion. We have an extensive knowledge of concussion and how to manage and rehabilitate following concussion. The other area that's really expanding is the military. And the military, just like athletic teams, they want people, when they get hurt, to be able to progress back and get back as quickly and as safely as possible. And so you'll see athletic trainers in that setting. So there's a number of different places that you as an athletic trainer can work.
Of course, as a professor, what has that been like, obviously seeing your students go on after collegiately and go into the profession, whether it's professionally for a sports team, military, or even for another college team?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, it's about which students get to do what they're passionate about. And that ultimately, as an educator and as a mentor, that's what you want to have happen. So you want to be able to prepare students to pass their board of certification exam, go on and do what it is that they are interested in doing and what they want to do. And that's why I'm here.
Of course, for those future people that are looking to get into athletic training, what classes do they need to take?
That's a great question. And what I generally tell students is always take anatomy. Even if you are a high school student and you're interested in any area of sports medicine or athletic training, take anatomy. And then they always say, yeah, but I'm going to take it in college. Well, yes, you are going to take it in college and you are going to take it again in graduate school. But the more anatomy you can have and the better your anatomy knowledge, the better clinician you will be. So that's always the first thing I tell students, to familiarize yourself with anatomy. It's like learning a foreign language. And so you should familiarize yourself with as much anatomy as you possibly can. And then you want to, when you get into undergraduate school, you want to be able to then look and see what are the prerequisite coursework that you need in order to go and get your master's in athletic training. And most of that prerequisite coursework is things like physics and, like I said, anatomy, and usually a biomechanics class or, something along those lines. But those classes are all listed on those institutions' websites. So you can look up those schools that offer master's degree programs in athletic training at the professional degree level, and find out what classes you need to take.
Of course, for those students that are looking to become athletic trainers and get a master's degree, what are some of the things that they need to look at in these prospective schools that may not be their school that they got their bachelor's in?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And one of the things that I always tell students to look at is some of the intangibles, right? So some of the things that can be, you should ask the question of, well, what do your students do, right? What have your students done when they've left here? What kinds of jobs do they get? And then you should also ask things like, well, what will my clinical experiences be like? And everybody clinically, it seems like everybody always wants to work some big name sport, right? They always want to work football but what I tell students is, look, you're actually better off if you're going to work a smaller sport, a non-revenue sport, because it's not as high profile. And so oftentimes you're going to be the one who gets to do potentially a little bit more in those scenarios than you would if you were working football. But everybody needs to have good clinical experiences, and you need to have an opportunity to try to make some good decisions. Because if you don't have good clinical experiences, then you're not going to end up being a very good clinician. So you should ask about your clinical experiences, what students do with the degree, and then you should also ask the question of about the board of certification exam, and they have to publish that information. And there are some programs that are really good at preparing their students for the board of certification exam, and then there are others that are not as good. And so you want to ask about what you do in order to prepare your students to take the board of certification exam, because ultimately to become an athletic trainer you need to pass that exam.
Of course, for those people that are looking to get into those non-generation sports that aren't football and basketball, what are the things that they need to look at in those sports like soccer and softball versus those people wanting to get into basketball and football?
Yeah, so I just think having a wide variety of experience is important, because you're not always going to get the, if you want to work football, you're not always going to get that big football job right at the very beginning. And so you need to become a good clinician. And the way that you do that is to work a wide variety of sports, and is also to expose yourself to a lot of different things and a lot of different kinds of injury. And from chronic injury to acute injury, upper extremity, lower extremity, it's important to get exposed to all of those different things. And that will prepare you for no matter what sport it is that you want to work in the future.
What advice would you give those people that are looking to study in athletic training?
I think my advice is first, make sure that you get some exposure to athletic training, know what athletic training is, know what it's not, right? We're not strength and conditioning coaches. That's not what we do. It's not personal training. That's different. It's not physical therapy. So many times individuals, physical therapists and athletic trainers do similar things. But as an athletic trainer, you're going to be out on a field, and you're going to be watching sport and waiting for injury to happen. And you're not necessarily going to have a 9-to-5 clinic job. But so you need to kind of know what athletic training is and what athletic training is not. And then from there, right, then talk to people who are athletic trainers. What do they love about their job? What are the challenges in their job? Everybody thinks that for an athletic trainer, it's very difficult to, can I have a family? Yes, you can, right? I have a family. I have 2 kids. I have a husband, right? You can absolutely have a family. You can absolutely make the things that you want to do in life work, but you just have to talk to people about how to do that. So my recommendation is talk to other athletic trainers, experience athletic training, ask to shadow an athletic trainer. That way, and you go in knowing what it is you're going to be doing.
What advice would you give those people that are looking to work in athletic training on the collegiate side?
So if you want to work in the collegiate world, then you definitely need, even after you get so now you would get an entry-level master's degree in athletic training and sit for the board certification exam. And if you want to work in Division I, like Power 5 conference sport, you need additional experience after that. We at UNC have a post-professional degree. It's a post-professional master's degree right now. We'll be switching that and transitioning that eventually to look a little bit different, but there are some other institutions that have post-professional education. You need some kind of post-professional education, some kind of residency, fellowship, something where you're getting more clinical experience, and then you're able to work in a Power 5 conference school.
What advice would you give those people that are looking to work for a professional sports team in athletic training?
So if you want to work professional sport, my advice always to you is it's about getting your foot in the door. And you want to try to, almost all of them have some kind of intern route. So the individuals that I know who work in professional sport, a lot of them started as interns, especially in the NFL. The NFL has a pretty extensive intern process. The Major League Baseball has a pretty good process as well. If you want to work in the NBA or the WNBA, oftentimes the route to do that is a Power 5 conference basketball experience or job. So a lot of that has to do with just putting yourself out there, sending messages to those individuals who are in those worlds, talking to them, and then potentially trying to secure an internship so you can get your foot in the door.
Of course, what advice would you give those people that are looking to teach and work in athletic training on the sports education side like you have?
Yeah. So it's interesting because my position itself is pretty unique. There are not a ton of faculty members who are also active clinically. So I work right now with the women's volleyball team. I've worked with a number of different teams throughout my career. And what I generally tell people is, if you want to be an educator in a collegiate world, then you need a doctorate of some kind. So after I finished my master's degree at UNC and I was hired at UNC as a faculty member, I very quickly realized that you need to have a doctorate. And so then I went and got my PhD in biomechanics at UNC Greensboro. And I did that part-time while I was working full-time because I didn't want to give up my job, which you can totally do. You can absolutely do that. But you do need a PhD or a doctorate of some kind. It can come in an EDD or a Juris Doctorate, right? Like we have a faculty member who's a JD, she's a lawyer. So there's any number of ways to do that, but you need to have that in the faculty world to be able to teach. And they might say you might be able to get a job just with a master's degree, but I would say long term, if you want to kind of grow your career, that you need a doctorate of some kind. And then the next step is to decide whether you want to be active clinically. And if you do, then you just have to ask the question. You just have to ask, work with the staff. I've worked with the clinical staff and just said, can I do this, right? Can I be active clinically? Can I be involved in the clinical world? And some of it is because we have these graduate students, and so they help me a lot. I don't sit at practice every day. I have graduate students. I have one practice day, and then I go down to treatment. So I don't have quite the time commitment. But in order to set that up, you have to ask, right? I just asked.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on contact wise?
Yeah, so I have I'm old, so I don't have a giant social media presence or anything of that nature, right? So the best way to find me is through mbusby@email.unc.edu. So that's that's my email to my faculty email at UNC, and that's probably the best way to contact me.
Thank you again, Meredith Petschauer, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as the professor of sports medicine and athletic training.
You're welcome.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.